Next CFO identification skill set needed. And for this, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Krishnan Ramachandran, who is the India Chief Financial Officer at Sagility. Giving a brief introduction, he's a chartered accountant having 25 plus years of experience in finance. He is tech savvy, having experience in automating activities in the area of finance. He has worked with Cyient Limited, Merck GSC, WNS Global Services, and with HCL BPO. With this, please welcome Mr. Krishnan with a huge round of applause.
Hi, good afternoon all of you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. So I am from Sagility. Now what is Sagility? Let me quickly introduce Sagility to all of you. Hinduja Global Solutions, I don't know how many of you are aware, it's a listed company. Hinduja Global Solutions hived off their healthcare division to Baring Private Equity Asia in Jan 2022. And Sagility is a revised brand that we have chosen. Our presence predominantly is in the US, India, Philippines, Jamaica, and Colombia. Our customers are in the US, and we cater to the insurance company where we provide services to insurers, we call them payers, and also to hospitals, we call them providers. We also do something called care management, and depending on the policy chosen by the customers, we extend the level of care for the customers. So this is a brief introduction about the company, and since Sagility is a new brand, I thought let me familiarize you with Sagility. The topic given to me today is next CFO identification and skill set needed. While most of the contents that I have put in here are not uncommon, but the point I would like to emphasize is we are talking about an audience which is not yet in the CFO bracket, right? While we know what we need, while we know that what qualities a CFO should have, seldom do we look for building out somebody and looking for somebody who exhibits some of these qualities. So I believe this session is more to enlighten us, to get us instigated to revisit our teams, our colleagues, and look for somebody whom we can either train or empower in our journey. So nothing new from a content perspective, but what is it that we should do to bring out the best of a CFO is what is this session about. So a CFO is a strategic business partner to the CEO, ensuring that business decisions are financially sound, compliant, and in the best interest of investors. This is something that is nothing new. The point again, at the cost of repetition, is this is something which we know, but do we articulate this well enough within our teams, with what frequency, and how do we instill this within our teams? Somebody who can understand or who has the ability to understand the business, the clients, who understands the language of the management, the board, the shareholders. It's about identifying somebody who has the ability to correlate and think from those perspectives. Now, the routine things like budgeting, accounting, and various analysis of the outcome from a financial and non-financial perspective is a given. But do everybody in our teams have that ability? How do we instill that? how do we train them? How do we get them to think? Is what, in my view, we should look at. Those resources who exhibit the characteristics of a nimble startup approach, and when I say startup approach, the care that they take, the level of details that they exhibit in whatever they do, while data is spread across, decisions are spread across, decision makers are spread across, how does this person exhibit himself in pulling all those scattered data or scattered matters, trying to analyze it, and then trying to enable key decisions to be made. I think the ability of somebody who's exhibiting these qualities, in my view, is one of the key skill sets. Highly compliant set of mind. Now for a CFO, remember this is key. Highly compliant, because there are tendencies, fortunately, unfortunately, and this is not within India alone, across globe, to deviate from compliance, either knowingly or unknowingly. But doesn't matter, right? Any non-compliance is a non-compliance. And all it takes is a small headline in a newspaper, and then you're gone. So, while there would be people who want to get things done, aggressive in nature, is it at the cost of compliance? That's something that we need to look for. The other part is, how far is the person that whomsoever you identify, exposed, or how do they bring up themselves with the latest changes in the world? There were a lot of sudden changes. There was IFRS 15 on the revenue side. There was IFRS 16 and the way we look at leases. GST was a major impact. ICFR was a major impact. And all of this had its own set of challenges. The moment somebody looks at getting listed in the US, you have SOX coming your way. Banking regulations keep changing. STPI, SEC have changed. Income tax assessments, the way they do the assessments, now it has become faceless assessments. The point is, does this person or does the team regularly update themselves with all of this? They need not be experts, but just the tendency to update themselves with the latest is one of the key skill set which I would believe. Now, when I say ability to guide business process to maturity, one small thing which we could do is to break a small process and give it to somebody to rebuild it. Most of the organizations that I know of have all grown at a fast pace, especially during this period between 2000 and 2020. Most of the systems, most of the processes have been rushed through, and many of them are revisiting those, doing the course correction. And to aid them, there has been a huge shift in technology. So here is, you need somebody in the next generation, in the next CFO, who can understand that. In our own organization, when we tried to attempt implementing a new HRMS, we struggled a lot. We had to go back to the guy who has witnessed all the changes through the 20 years in the organization, because he's the only guy who would know all the nitty-gritties. So are we to live with that? Are we to guide our teams to systematically try and understand how to build matured processes, document them, and be a guide to the rest of the teams. I would look at a CFO who would focus on this aspect. Corporate values, that is the key. An eye for diversity. And when we look at diversity today, we define diversity by gender and by other parameters. But the one that I would like to emphasize is, would you embrace a data scientist in your team? Would you look at employing somebody who has experience in AI within the finance team? So I think there is a lot for the next generation CFOs to do, especially in the area of technology, and we'll come there soon in the next slide where I mentioned. I'll come to the second point first and then go to the earlier one. The tech savvy with continuous learning, RPA, blockchain, data analytics, automation, all these have become a very routine thing. In our organization, we had close to about 40 tools because everybody needed something. And I'm talking about a build-up over the last 20 years. And what you needed was somebody with a techno-functional set of mind who would understand finance, but who would also understand how the tool will behave and what are the implications. And one of the reasons why even our governance bodies have changed their approach, today auditors are statutorily required to report internal controls over financial reporting, and that covers IT controls, IT application controls. The reason for that is the heavy shift on technology, the way we integrate, the way we share our input and output. Unless there is somebody who has that technology bent of mind and who can really correlate the impact of one to the other, try and see how to create a data lake between financial and non-financial information, marry the two to come out with meaningful outcomes. Again, what I'm saying is what can be done. But the emphasis here is, does the person whom you identify with the skill set have this bent of mind? I think that is where we'll need to focus on. Agile, who always adopts to change very fast, that is a given. But that is a quality we can look for. Art of prioritizing, that is very key, because today the role of a CFO is such where you need multitasking, but at the same time you need to prioritize. So does the incumbent exhibit those qualities is the question. Fast thinker and positive always. This is one thing which I would stress. There are enough and more opportunities or occasions where we tend to be put down. The question is this incumbent cheerful enough, positive enough in exhibiting whatever? Even a negative news can be communicated positively with a solution, with an impact, with an outcome. Does the incumbent tend to position or showcase positiveness at all times? At least I would look for that. Confidence is another important key thing. While there would be a lot of situations which are challenging, it's with what level of confidence does the person do something? And that goes along with the previous point of calculated risk. Again, as I said, it's about somebody showcasing these set of capabilities whom we should look for constantly, very consciously. Some of these are given, should be a team player, critical thinking, analytical communicator, and very key is interpersonal skills. Gone are those days where CFO says, I hold everything to myself, I am a control freak. You need to give win-win situations, need to come out with innovative thinking in which you really collaborate well and guide and take the team together. It's not about our team alone. Remember, we're talking about the organization as a whole. It's about representing the organization and creating the positive impact. Some basics always include encourage collaboration, time management, which becomes very key. And one important thing is no big brother approach. Gone are those days where we do for the sake of auditors, for the sake of what somebody else would think. The person should do the right thing at all times without scare of any interference. So I would encourage somebody who would exhibit this as a quality. Well-behaved, integrity, courteous, polite, all those are given from a CFO skills perspective. This is my last slide, and I have put this just to reflect on where do we make mistakes as an organization. What is it that we consciously don't look into? And these are some of the examples where organizations, especially when they grow fast, at the time of gush, tend to make some of these mistakes. What happens is the course correction is a lot more difficult and time consuming and expensive. This is all that I had to present, from emphasizing what we consciously need to do, consciously look at our own teams, our own colleagues, look for incumbents who exhibit these qualities. Not all of them would exhibit all of these qualities, but some of those key ones are quite important. And if we can train some of them with objectively building the next generation CFO, I think that is where our success is. I also thank all the partners for this program. Most of them have come up with the bent of mind to bring a lot of improvement through technology. And one of the reasons why I said it's also about the ability of an individual to understand how the technology plays a key role in improving the growth of the organization. That matters. Thank you. Questions, if any. Are we taking questions now?
Yes, we'll take.
All right.
Do we have any questions for him? Okay, I guess we don't have any questions now, sir. But thank you so much for your session.